The phone is silent, but your body hasn't received the message. Your thumb still hovers over his name, a conversation left without a final word. Your nervous system is a satellite dish, tuned to a frequency that has gone dead, yet it keeps listening. There is a hum of anticipation under your skin, a low-grade fever of waiting that has become the soundtrack to your days. It's not just the silence that hurts, it's the contradiction. It's the memory of his eyes when he looked at you, the way the air crackled with unspoken things, the feeling of being seen in a way that felt like coming home. That was real. You didn't imagine it. The laughter was real. The late-night talks were real. The moment the world seemed to fade away and only the two of you existed, that was real. And now, this digital void, this quiet that feels louder and more violent than any angry word. Your mind becomes a detective's office, littered with clues. You replay every conversation. You analyze every shared look. You search for the exact moment the tide turned, the hairline fracture that led to this collapse. Your friends, with well-meaning simplicity, offer their verdicts. He's just not that into you. If he wanted to, he would. Just block him and move on. But their logic feels like a foreign language. It doesn't compute with the data your soul collected. It doesn't explain the intensity, the feeling of recognition, the sense that this wasn't just another connection. And so, you are left alone in this strange, invisible waiting room, holding a truth that the world around you denies. You start to question your own sanity. Did I make it all up? Was I just a chapter in a book he has already closed? The hidden question that keeps you awake at night is not just, why is he silent? It's, was any of it real? Because if it wasn't, then your own perception, your own intuition, cannot be trusted. And that is a far more terrifying silence than the one coming from your phone. But this is where the surface story ends, and the deeper psychological truth begins. The silence you are experiencing is not an empty space. It is a fortress. It is a carefully constructed psychological defense. And what you felt was so real that it forced him to retreat behind its walls. He is silent not because he feels nothing. He is silent because he felt too much. And what he is doing now is less about you and more about a desperate, unconscious battle he is fighting with himself. To understand his silence, we must look past the silent phone and see the architecture of that inner fortress. And this is where the work of Carl Jung becomes not a theory, but a lantern in the dark. Jung understood that the human psyche is not a simple machine. It is a landscape of light and shadow, of conscious intention and powerful unconscious drives. The man who is silent, yet who you know is thinking of you, is a man caught in a conflict between what his soul recognized in you and what his ego can handle. The first wall of his fortress is his persona. The persona, in Jungian terms, is the social mask we all wear. It's the version of ourselves we present to the world to be acceptable, to fit in, to be perceived in a certain way. For many men, this persona is one of strength, control, invulnerability, and emotional detachment. It's the cool guy, the unflappable professional, the man who has it all together. This persona is rewarded by society. It's safe, it's predictable, it knows the rules of the game. When you met him, you likely didn't connect with his persona. You connected with the man behind it. The moments of genuine laughter, of vulnerability, of deep conversation, those were moments when the mask slipped. You saw him, the real him, and for a moment, he felt the profound relief of being seen. But for an ego that has spent years, or even a lifetime identifying with its mask, being truly seen is also terrifying. Intimacy is a threat to the persona. A real connection requires vulnerability, spontaneity, and emotional honesty, all things that the rigid mask cannot tolerate. The connection you shared was like a warm light that started to melt the edges of his carefully crafted identity. It asked for a part of him that he has learned to suppress, to hide, to deem as weak or unmanly. So, the silence is the first tool the ego uses to rebuild the persona. It's an immediate, powerful way to restore the mask of indifference. By not responding, he is non-verbally screaming, "I am in control. This didn't affect me. I am the cool, detached man you thought I was." He is performing for an invisible audience, and most painfully, he is performing for himself, trying to convince himself that the connection wasn't as significant as it felt. He is choosing the safety of his old identity over the frightening, uncharted territory of a real emotional bond. Behind the wall of the persona stands the gatekeeper, the ego. The ego, in Jungian psychology, is the center of our conscious mind. It's our sense of I, our identity. A healthy ego is flexible, open to new information from the unconscious, and secure in its own worth. But a fragile or inflated ego is rigid. Its primary job becomes self-preservation at all costs. It fears anything that could threaten its sense of control, and a genuine, soul-level connection is the ultimate threat to a fragile ego's control. Why? Because real connection is unpredictable. It brings up deep feelings. It makes us vulnerable. It mirrors back to us our own shadows and our deepest longings. When he was with you, he wasn't just feeling attraction. He was feeling the pull of something bigger than his conscious plans. He was feeling the call of his own soul, a part of him that wants wholeness, not just control. To his ego, this feels like a hostile takeover. The feelings you evoke in him are a force of nature that his ego cannot manage with logic or strategy. So, it panics. And its primary defense mechanism is to shut down communication. Silence is an assertion of power. It's the ego's way of saying, I will decide when and how we interact. I will not be swept away by this feeling. I am the one in charge. He thinks about you because the experience was real and it left an imprint on his psyche. But he doesn't write because his ego is in lockdown. It has interpreted the depth of the connection as a danger. It's like a castle guard who has seen a dragon flying in the distance. The dragon may be beautiful and magical, but the guard's only job is to slam the gate and pull up the drawbridge. The silence is the sound of that drawbridge going up. It's a defense against the beautiful, terrifying magic of what he felt with you. This is the uncomfortable paradox. The more profound the connection was, the more likely it is to trigger this ego defense in a man who is not ready for it. You are being punished not for your inadequacy, but for your potency. Your presence was too real, and it made his carefully managed world feel unsafe. So, what is the ego so afraid of? It's not you. It's afraid of what you represent. You represent the call to individuation, the lifelong Jungian process of becoming a whole, integrated self. This process demands that we confront the parts of ourselves we have disowned. It demands we integrate our shadow. For many men in our culture, the shadow contains their vulnerability, their dependency, their emotional needs, and their deep yearning for connection. These are qualities that the collective masculine persona often labels as weak. He may have spent his whole life proving he is not needy, not weak, not emotional. And then he meets you, and in your presence, he feels a pull towards a different way of being. He feels a desire to let go, to be vulnerable, to be truly seen. This desire comes from his soul, from the self, the true center of the psyche. But his ego, the loyal servant of his old identity, perceives this as a threat of annihilation. It fears that if it surrenders to this feeling, it will be engulfed, lose its identity, and become everything it has fought not to be. The silence is his attempt to starve that feeling. He is hoping that if he ignores it, it will go away. He is trying to retreat to the familiar, controllable world where he is the master of his own emotions. He is thinking of you because you are the face of a part of his own soul he has not yet had the courage to meet. You are a living, breathing reminder of his own incompletion. This is where another layer of the dynamic comes in, a concept that explains the almost fated or magical quality of the connection you felt. In Jungian psychology, men have an inner feminine archetype called the anima, and women have an inner masculine archetype called the animus. The anima is a man's unconscious image of the feminine, built from his experiences with his mother, sisters, and the collective culture, but also containing an archetypal, spiritual quality. It is his inner muse, his soul image. When a man has a powerful, instant connection with a woman, it is often because she has hooked his anima projection. He is not just seeing you, he is seeing his own soul reflected back at him. This is why it feels so much deeper than simple attraction. It feels like recognition, like destiny. He feels, on an unconscious level, she has something I need. She makes me feel whole. This anima activation is incredibly potent. It's the stuff of myths and legends. But for the modern man, whose ego is identified with being rational and in control, this experience is profoundly destabilizing. It feels like being enchanted, like losing his mind. He is drawn to you with a force he cannot explain or control, and this terrifies his ego, so he pulls away. The silence is a desperate attempt to break the spell. He is trying to get distance from you, to get distance from the overwhelming power of his own unconscious. He is running not from you, but from the mirror you hold up to his own soul. The more perfectly you match his anima projection, the more intense his flight might be. He is thinking of you constantly, because you are the living embodiment of a part of himself. He is silent, because he is afraid of what that part of himself is asking of him. To change, to grow, to surrender control, to become whole. This is a deeply painful position for you to be in. You are essentially being blamed for being the answer to a question he is not yet brave enough to ask. You are the treasure, and he is the dragon guarding it from himself. If this exploration of the inner world is naming something you have felt but couldn't articulate, take a moment to acknowledge that. Your intuition was not wrong. The depth you felt was real. It was simply too much for an unprepared psyche to hold. Now, we must turn the lantern from his inner world to yours. Because as long as the focus is entirely on him, you remain a passive victim of his psychological drama. The true path to freedom and power lies in understanding your role in this dynamic. The question is not just, why is he silent? The more important question is, why does his silence have so much power over my peace? Just as he projected his anima onto you, you projected your animus onto him. The animus is the unconscious masculine principle in a woman's psyche. It shapes her expectations of men and her relationship to her own inner authority, logic, and action. When you felt that instant recognition, you weren't just seeing him, you were seeing an outer embodiment of your own inner ideal. This man, in his strength, his mystery, or his hidden vulnerability, seemed to hold a key. A key to what? This is the crucial question you must ask yourself. Did he represent the adventure you secretly crave, the stability you feel you lack, the creative spark you have suppressed, the validation you never got from your father? His silence is so deafening because it feels like that key has been taken away. It feels like a part of your own potential has been locked away with him. Your obsession with his silence is not just about him. It's about a part of your own psyche that you gave into his keeping. You are not waiting for a text message. You are waiting for permission to access a part of yourself. This dynamic is often powered by an unconscious wound, what Jung would call a complex. Most commonly in these situations, it is the abandonment complex. If you have an early, unhealed experience of being left, emotionally or physically, then a man's withdrawal will trigger that old wound with disproportionate intensity. His silence doesn't just feel like rejection, it feels like a confirmation of a deep, terrifying belief. I am not worthy of being stayed for. Eventually, everyone leaves. His ego defense hooks directly into your complex. His fortress becomes your prison. Your mind loops, trying to figure out what you did wrong, how you could have been better, prettier, less intense, or more easygoing to prevent him from leaving. You start to believe that if you could just find the right combination, the right words, the right behavior, you could get him to lower the drawbridge. But this is a trap. It keeps you chained to his validation, abandoning your own center. You are trying to solve his inner conflict for him, a task that is impossible and that drains you of your own life force. The turning point, the moment of true empowerment, comes when you stop trying to understand him in order to get him back, and start understanding the dynamic in order to get yourself back. It is the moment you withdraw your projection. Withdrawing a projection is one of the most difficult and most liberating acts in psychological development. It means consciously taking back the power and qualities you have placed onto another person. It means realizing that the key he seemed to hold was yours all along. The adventure, the stability, the validation you seek are not in his hands. They are qualities of your own animus, your own inner masculine, that you must now learn to cultivate for yourself. This process is painful. It feels like a second heartbreak. First, you lost him. Now you must willingly let go of the fantasy of him, the image you projected onto him. You have to grieve the potential you saw. You have to accept that he may never become the man you saw he could be. You do this by shifting your focus. Every time your mind drifts to him, to checking his social media, to rereading old messages, you gently but firmly bring your attention back to yourself. Ask yourself, what is the feeling underneath this compulsion? Is it loneliness? Is it a feeling of worthlessness? Is it fear? And then, instead of waiting for him to soothe that feeling, you learn to soothe it yourself. You learn to be your own source of validation. You take yourself on the adventure. You build your own stability. You connect with your own creative spark. This is the work of integrating your animus. It is the process of becoming your own inner partner, of becoming psychologically whole. When you do this, something magical begins to happen. His silence starts to lose its power. It's no longer a verdict on your worth. It's just silence. It's information about where he is on his own journey, a journey you are no longer responsible for. The emotional charge drains away. The silent phone on the table becomes just a piece of glass and metal again, not a weapon pointed at your heart. You stop performing for him in your mind. You stop crafting the perfect, witty thing to say if he ever reaches out. You stop posting things in the hope that he will see them and understand what he lost. You simply start living your life for you. Your energy, which was leaking out towards him, now flows back into you. You start to feel more solid, more centered, more vibrant. This is the real transformation. It is not a tactic to get him back. It is a profound return to your own sovereign self. And here is the final paradox. It is often at this very moment, when you have truly let go, when his return no longer feels like a matter of life and death, that the silence breaks. He may feel the shift in energy. On an unconscious level, the pressure is off. Your energetic focus is no longer besieging his fortress. The dragon he was so afraid of has flown away. And in that space, his own curiosity, his own longing, the voice of his own soul that you awakened, may finally have room to be heard. He might send that text, a simple, "Hey, how are you?" that carries the weight of 1,000 unsaid things. But if and when that happens, he will not be met by the anxious, waiting woman he left behind. He will be met by a woman who has taken her keys back, a woman who has faced her own shadow, withdrawn her projection, and found her center. A woman who is whole without him. She will not be bitter or cold. She will be calm. She will be discerning. She will be able to see him clearly now, not as a savior or a fantasy, but as a man with his own fears and his own fortress. And she will be able to choose, from a place of fullness rather than lack, whether or not she wants to grant him entry into her world again. She will assess whether he has done any work on his own walls, or if he is simply looking for another brief escape from his persona. Her value is no longer up for his debate or validation. It is a self-evident truth, and if he never reaches out, it is a loss, yes, the loss of a beautiful potential, but it is no longer a catastrophe, because in the process of his silence, you were forced to embark on a journey that was ultimately far more important than any one relationship. You were forced to find yourself. You learned to distinguish between soul-level connection and ego-driven fear. You learned to stop abandoning yourself in the hope that someone else would stay. You came home. The goal was never to make him break his silence. The goal was to find peace within it, to turn his withdrawal into your own advance, and advance into a deeper, more resilient, and more authentic love for yourself. That is a love that no one can ever take away from you. That is a silence that is finally, truly, your own. It is the quiet of a woman who is at peace in her own house, who is no longer waiting by the door. My silence is not a game. It is my return to myself. But let's bring this down from the realm of the psyche and into the temple of the body, because your body has been keeping a meticulous record of this entire ordeal. The mind can be tricked. It can rationalize and bargain, but the body knows the truth. The waiting isn't just a thought, it's a physical state. It's the tightness in your chest when you pick up your phone. It's the shallow breathing you don't even notice as you scroll through his profile. It's the subtle clenching of your jaw, the tension in your shoulders, the hum of cortisol in your veins that keeps you in a state of low-grade fight or flight. This is what trauma, even on this relational scale, does. It lodges itself in your tissues. Your nervous system has been primed to expect a signal, a text, a call, a sign of life. When that signal doesn't come, the system doesn't just power down. It stays on high alert, burning through your precious energy reserves. This is why you feel so exhausted. You are not just emotionally drained, you are physically depleted from holding a state of chronic anticipation. The work of withdrawing your projection and coming back to yourself is therefore not just a mental exercise, it is a somatic one. It is the conscious act of teaching your body that the threat has passed. It starts with a breath. A deep, intentional breath that travels all the way down into your belly, signaling to your nervous system that you are safe, right here, right now, without his validation. It is placing a hand on your own heart and feeling your own heartbeat, a rhythm that is yours and yours alone, a rhythm that was there before him and will be there long after. It's about noticing the tension in your shoulders and consciously letting them drop. It's about feeling the ache of loneliness in your chest and breathing into that space, not with the goal of making it go away, but with the goal of holding it with compassion, as you would a crying child. You are metabolizing the pain, processing it through your body, instead of letting it remain trapped. This is how you reclaim your physical sovereignty. You teach your body, cell by cell, that its sense of safety and peace is generated from within, not granted by an external source. As you do this, you might notice strange things. A sudden urge to cry while stretching, a wave of anger during a quiet walk. This is the energy unfreezing. It is the somatic memory of the abandonment being released. Let it move. Don't judge it. This is not regression. This is liberation. You are not just healing your heart, you are rewiring your nervous system for wholeness. And as you become more anchored in your own body, you'll begin to notice the concrete inner signs that the spell is truly breaking. These signs are subtle at first, like the first thaw of spring after a long winter. The first sign is that the quality of your inner narrator changes. The voice that used to frantically ask, "What did I do wrong? How can I get him to notice me?" begins to quiet down. In its place, a new voice emerges, a calmer, more curious one. It asks, "What is this feeling telling me about my own needs?" When you feel a pang of loneliness, instead of reaching for the phone to check on him, you find yourself asking, "How can I give myself a sense of connection right now?" Perhaps you call a friend, take a walk in nature, or work on a creative project. The focus shifts from external seeking to internal nourishment. The second sign is a change in your digital behavior. There will come a day when you pick up your phone and realize you haven't thought to check his social media for hours, or even a full day. The compulsion, that itchy, desperate urge, has been replaced by a simple thought, a thought you can observe and let go, like a cloud passing in the sky. You might see his name and feel a flicker of something, a memory, but it no longer has the power to hijack your nervous system. The energetic cord has been frayed and is beginning to dissolve. The third sign, and one of the most profound, is that you start to get bored with your own story. The drama of why he is silent used to be a gripping thriller you replayed in your mind constantly. Now, it starts to feel like a rerun of a show you've seen too many times. You know all the lines. You know the ending is unsatisfying, and you find yourself wanting to change the channel. This boredom is a sacred signal. It is your soul telling you that it is ready for a new story, a new adventure, one where you are the protagonist, not a supporting character in his. And this brings us to the ultimate test. The moment the universe, with its ironic sense of timing, decides to check if you've really learned the lesson. The phone, silent for weeks or months, suddenly lights up with his name. "Hey, been a while. How have you been?" In the past, this message would have sent a jolt of pure, unadulterated adrenaline through you, a tidal wave of hope that would wash away all your resolve. But now, it's different. The jolt is still there. You are human, after all. But it's accompanied by a new feeling, caution, a sense of calm observation. The old you would have typed back instantly, afraid that if you waited 5 minutes, the magic window would close forever. The new you puts the phone down. You take a breath. You place a hand on your heart and check in with your body. What does this feel like? Is it the expansive warmth of genuine connection, or the tight, anxious pull of an old addiction? You give yourself time. You remember that your peace is no longer on sale. When you do decide to respond, your energy is different. You are not auditioning. You are not trying to be witty or cool or alluring. You are simply present. You might reply with a calm, neutral, "I'm doing well, thanks. Hope you are too." Now, you watch. You are no longer a participant desperate for a crumb of attention. You are a discerning queen observing who is asking for entry at her gate. You are looking for one thing above all else: accountability. Does he acknowledge his disappearance in any meaningful way? A man who has done some inner work, who feels genuine remorse and is ready for something real, will say something that takes ownership. "Listen, I know I disappeared, and I'm sorry for that. I was overwhelmed and handled it poorly." This is a green light. It's an opening for a real conversation. But a man still trapped in his ego fortress will do the opposite. He will either ignore the silence completely, acting as if nothing happened. Crazy busy with work, so what's new? Or he will offer a flimsy, self-serving excuse that subtly blames you. "You were so intense, I needed space." This is a red flag the size of a castle banner. He has not changed. He has not grown. He is simply bored or lonely, and he has returned to a source of energy that he knows was potent. He is testing the waters to see if you are still a reliable source for an ego boost. If you see these red flags, the empowered woman does not argue. She does not demand an apology. She does not try to teach him a lesson. That is the old pattern of trying to fix him. Instead, she recognizes that he is showing her exactly who he is, and she believes him. She may offer a polite but firm boundary. "It's good to hear from you, but the way our communication ended wasn't something I'm looking to repeat. I wish you the best." Or she may simply let the conversation fade out, giving it the same amount of energy he gave her. None. This is the ultimate freedom. The ability to walk away, not in anger, but in clarity. The knowledge that your peace is more valuable than his presence. Your wholeness is not negotiable. And so we arrive at the end of this journey, back where we started, with the silence. But it is a different silence now. It is not the loud, violent void of his absence. It is the quiet, resonant fullness of your own presence. His silence was the catalyst, the harsh and holy fire that burned away everything that was not truly you. It forced you to stop looking for a home in another person and to finally build one within yourself. The love you were so desperately seeking from him was a mirror of the love your own soul was asking from you. The validation, the security, the feeling of being truly seen, these were never his to give. They were invitations to cultivate those very things within your own being. His story may or may not continue. He may remain in his fortress, or he may one day find the courage to step out. But it is no longer your story to write. Your story is now about the woman who stood in the wreckage of a beautiful connection, and instead of waiting for him to come back and rebuild it, she picked up the tools and built a temple to herself. A temple of resilience, self-knowledge, and unshakable inner peace. The silence is no longer an unanswered question. It is the space in which you finally heard your own answer, and that answer, whispered from the deepest part of you, is and always was: you are enough.